Two of the topics that I wanted to address are both the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. These are two very, very important consumer protection statutes that are out there. They allow for individuals to get relief from unfair, harassing conduct by debt collectors, and it's also a benefit with the Fair Credit Reporting Act to make sure that your credit report is accurate so that you're not paying more for things like car insurance, you're not paying more for interest rates on loans, credit cards, and things of that nature. The first thing that I did want to talk to or talk about today is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. The Fair Credit Reporting Act is a statute that is designed to provide remedies for credit report information that is incorrect or inaccurate. However, one of the most important things about the Fair Credit Reporting Act is that your damages under the Fair Credit Reporting Act don't accrue or don't start just because there's an inaccuracy on your credit report. Unfortunately, too many times people don't find out that there's something wrong with their credit report until they've gone to get that car loan, or they've applied for insurance, or they've done some of those things. The most important thing somebody can do is regularly check your credit report. And this isn't something, a privacy, shield or something of that nature. Actually looking at your credit report to make sure that the information there is being reported correctly. Things that we've seen in the past. Reporting a payment that is late that was actually made on time. Now, that may not seem like a big deal, especially if it's just one payment and it's easily explained away. But one of the new guidelines for the HARP refinancing program is that you've been current on your payments. And so this one late month or one payment on your credit report that says you're 30 days late when you weren't can essentially disqualify you from receiving a home loan refinance that may save you thousands, if not hundreds of $1,000s in interest rates, given the new interest rates that are out there. So what should somebody do, or what should somebody look for? Well, my suggestion is pull your credit report. You're entitled to one free credit report from each of the three credit reporting agencies once a year. Again, this is one of those areas that you have to be extremely careful about, because unfortunately advertising and mass marketing out there has come up with catchy jingles, and they've come up with all of these things to get you to come to their website to pull your credit report, and then they want your credit card number, or they want to charge you for your credit score. With regards to making sure your credit is accurate, the credit score is irrelevant. It's more important that it's accurate. So you want to go to a website or to the credit reporting agencies themselves and pull your credit report for free. There's no sense in paying for something that you're entitled to get for free. But the next thing to look at is accuracy. Are the accounts that are listed mine? Oftentimes we have a family member, maybe a parent, and the difference in our names is junior and senior, or we have the same first name and different middle name, or very similar names, and oftentimes because at one point or another you lived at the same address as that individual, that the credit reporting agencies have kind of lumped your information together. It's important to make sure that the accounts are your own. So the first thing that you want to do is highlight those. The second thing, as I mentioned just a little bit ago about the payments, you want to make sure that your payment history is correct. If you've been making payments on time, then you deserve to get credit for making those payments on time. If the payment history is inaccurate, if it has a payment that's missing, it's important to make sure that information is correct as well. And then the other thing that you want to look at is, are things on there that shouldn't be on there? We all go through tough times, especially in the recent recession, even though people don't like to use that word. But as we went through that, everybody went through tough times, and you know, there may have been a medical bill or a bill that slipped through the crack, or oftentimes I see people have a $35 bill to a medical provider that is on their credit and negatively affecting their credit, and they look at it and say, I don't even know what this is, I had insurance at the time, some of those things. So those are other things that you want to be looking out for when you're looking at that credit report. Once you've identified that there's either inaccurate or incorrect information on your credit report, then what do you do? Well, this is the preparation for ultimately, if things don't get corrected, having an avenue to redress this situation with the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Because the first step before a Fair Credit Reporting Act case can be brought, or actually before any damages even start to accrue, is that the debt must be disputed. Typically, I see a lot of dispute avenues online nowadays, especially the credit reporting agencies allow you to go to their websites and initiate disputes online. However, I believe the best practice is to do it in writing and to be as detailed as possible. You know, a lot of times I get the question, well, how do I fix my credit score? Or I went to this program and they said, well, dispute everything. And those are, you know, programs that are out there. It's not something that I advocate doing, because what I'm doing is looking to right a wrong. I'm looking to help those individuals that have been hurt by the conduct of either the creditor or the credit reporting agency. And so I don't like just to do a generic object to everything. I like to be as specific as possible. Especially, you know, taking the example of the payment that they allege that you missed, but you know that you made on time. A good dispute here is putting it in writing, and either attaching a copy of the, you know, check and when it was written and when it cleared the bank account, or writing a brief description that says, this check was written on, you know, this date, it cleared my account on this date, the payment was due on this date. The purpose of this is really twofold. One is ultimately if we're looking to file a case and we can go to the creditor or the credit reporting agency and say, well, here's the dispute that was done, it makes it a little bit easier to pin down the exact account. But more importantly, one of the things that happens when you file your credit reporting dispute is that it puts a duty on the credit reporting agency and the creditor to do a reasonable inquiry. And unfortunately, the term reasonable inquiry is not defined in the statute, but it makes it much harder for a credit reporting agency or the creditor to say, well, we did an inquiry and the information's correct, when you provide them with the documentation of why they are wrong. You know, essentially, if they come back and say, well, no, we submitted it, we verified the information, everything's true, and you haven't provided them with any information, what they're going to do is they're going to go back and check their own records. They're just going to go back and check their records that generated the false report in the first place, and they're going to say, well, this is all the information that we had access to. We didn't have access to the individual's information. We didn't have any access to the individual's bank account, so how could we have investigated it any further? But when you provide them with that information that disputes it, you provide them with and again, one important caveat here is make sure you redact your actual bank account number. Don't give them the bank account number. Don't give them a copy of the check that has both your routing number and account number at the bottom. It's important to give them this information, though, so that they can't come back and say that. If they have hard dates and they have hard information in front of them, their reasonable inquiry, that standard comes up a notch. You know, they can't just go back and look at their own computer records. They can't just go back and say, oh, well, we checked our system and our system says this information is correct. It's going to raise that standard. Now, the next step or the next part of the credit reporting aspect and is damages. And you don't have a Fair Credit Reporting Act case until there's been some sort of damages. Those damages can run the gamut. Paying more money on your insurance policies, being denied for a car loan, being denied for anything that goes into it. One of the interesting things in the Fair Credit Reporting Act, it also talks about permissible uses for the credit reports, but more and more times employers are asking permission to look at your credit report to make hiring decisions. So those may be damages. If the employer says, well, we pulled your credit report and there's this information about you owe $100,000 on an account, and so we decided that we're not going to hire you, that may be damages in and of itself. One of the things that we see on a regular basis is that person that comes in and says, well, I think I have damages or I got turned down, and how do I determine if my damages are related to this inaccuracy or not? It's a tough question. It's one of those things that, depending on the credit report, there may be numerous negative marks on their credit report, or there may be few. Sometimes it's very simple. In the case of a HARP refinance being denied because of late payments, we know which account to attach it to. The most important thing you can do, though, is if you do have questions, schedule a consult with one of our attorneys at the Duluth Law Group and let them look at it and let them analyze whether or not you have a potential claim under the Fair Credit Reporting Act.